are talking live survival, which is written and directed by Joe Lujan, who also has a supporting role in the movie as well. And this is actually a sequel to a previous movie, Live Escape. I haven't seen the original movie, I've just seen this one, and it is a found footage zombie film. I would say you can kind of watch this without seeing the original. I wasn't lost. Kind of, you know, you do follow some new characters that weren't in the first film, so although it does have some crossover, I think it's easy enough to kind of pick up what was kind of meant to have happened. So, Live Survival. It's a low-budget movie. Joe Lujan looks like he has quite a large kind of CV, so to speak, of film projects. Set up with a prolific filmmaker, mainly kind of horror by the looks of it. To be fair, this is the first film I've seen of his. What's the basic story? Well, it focuses on a group of people. We see these kind of this group build through the movie. Initially, it focuses on this kind of this guy and his sort of female friend, I suppose, and they're kind of like going out for a night out, I guess, and they're attacked by zombies. They end up in this kind of, it's meant to be a hotel, but it looks like a kind of like one of those haunted house kind of scare attractions. And they're kind of joined by a couple of cops who were characters from the previous movie, and then a couple of other characters kind of later on down the film, and they kind of team up and try and ultimately escape the zombie menace and see if they can kind of find a cure. That's your kind of your basic kind of story here. So far, so kind of like nothing too spectacular. It is done in a found footage style. It's not quite clear exactly why people are filming, I will say, but you know, there it is. Yeah, so that's your kind of your basic plot premise. Let's discuss what works in this movie. So it's pretty action-packed. There's quite a lot of kind of zombie attacks. It never goes too long without having you know, some type of kind of action kind of set piece or anything like that. So it's a fairly kind of like action orientated zombie film, although there is some downtime here and there. There's always kind of you know, some type of attack happening just kind of around the corner. So it does have elements of it being somewhat of kind of a fighting film as well, fighting for survival sort of thing. I will say, despite me not really knowing what this kind of property is that they're in, I mean, it looks like they go into the back of a lorry, and it ends up being a hotel. It looks like a kind of scare attraction, but it's still quite effective, I have to say. And you know, it looks kind of weird and spooky. Maybe it looks like it's trying a little too hard to look weird and spooky, but I kind of quite like the aesthetic. We do have a kind of a Resident Evil style like evolution of these kind of undead creatures, with kind of evolved ones that we're introduced to kind of towards the end that are kind of a little bit more sort of dangerous. So you know, it's quite interesting. We only kind of really see flashes of, you know, what these things could actually be, but you know, at least they're kind of included. There's quite a good scene with kind of like a zombie child, which I thought was quite fun. So yeah, it's if you like zombie films, it's much of that kind of style of movie, but albeit one in kind of the found footage format. The characters I think are okay. You know, there's nothing special here, no real sort of in-depth character development here, but I think they sort of come across as okay. There's, unlike a lot of found footage movies, there's you often find arguments and stuff, you know, characters arguing. There's less of that, which was good. So you know, it's a very low budget zombie film. It's kind of what you're probably expecting. What doesn't work in this movie? Okay, so it's a low budget zombie film. The zombies don't look particularly impressive, I must say. I mean, I understand this is meant to have taken place quite recently, so I suppose you could argue that they haven't decomposed all that much. So they're more like just people with blood on their face. It doesn't look particularly kind of scary, to be fair, but I guess you could argue that there is that to kind of say in its favour and realism. I suppose they haven't decomposed just yet because it's only happened in the last 24 hours. like I said, the actual kind of set design here, it's meant to be a hotel, but it doesn't look like a hotel. It looks like a scare attraction. So there you go. That's the sort of things I've covered in the pluses. What else can I say? There's very little characterization in this film. I don't know what, we were introduced to these two cops from the original movie, but we don't really know much about them. We've got one guy who's kind of talking to his wife every so often, but that's the only really bit of characterization that we get. I do think they attempt to have a little bit of characterization with the new characters, this kind of couple, but it's just banal kind of dialogue that seems very directionless in this kind of car where they're just kind of talking, and it's just like, my God, it's just like really like banal dialogue. It's just like not a good scene. I don't think the direction was particularly strong, I have to be honest with you, because it just seems like people are like meandering and not really, I mean, it feels to me like there wasn't a huge amount of script. It's just kind of more of an outline and people are kind of left there for their own devices, and it just seems a little bit kind of like people don't really know what to say and things like this. There's not a huge amount of attention to detail. Even arguably our main character, who's this kind of like this new character, this guy, for when we first meet him, he first goes into this kind of hotel, he's got his t-shirt inside out, it's just like, and then he's realised at some point, and later on in the film he's got it the right way around, but you can see like the ticket poking out, you can see like the seams. This is a really poor attention to detail. It might seem nitpicky, but it's just evidencing the kind of like the, as I say, just a little bit of a slapdash approach that I feel this movie has kind of taken in regards to its kind of the way it's kind of filmed. The dialogue seems, not just the bit I've described, but the whole throughout the film, it just doesn't seem like it's particularly well rehearsed or particularly well structured. It more or less feels like the character or the actors have a broad idea about what to say, and they're kind of just sort of, making up what to say as they kind of go along, trying to hit the conversation points the writer director has kind of set for them. It isn't particularly gory. The zombie attacks aren't particularly kind of interesting. There's a fair amount of them, but they're just not particularly kind of interesting. And there's very little story. In actual fact, this movie feels like it's the first act in a kind of like another part to come. Even though this is actually the second film, it feels like we were introduced to this kind of group of characters, and we don't really get the complete group until after an hour in the movie. And then there's only 15 minutes or so left. And we've got the group together probably about an hour and 5 minutes into the film. And then we have the finale. And it's just like, well, there should have been a little bit more to it. There's just not much to this film in regards to kind of story elements. And as I said, the found footage conceit here is weak. I mean, I just don't know why people are filming. There's very little attempt to have a reason why people are filming. Certainly when we've got such kind of like bad things happening, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, if we're having police characters, they should surely have body cams rather than holding like a phone, which is what they do. It just seems like you're holding a phone where you could like use to hold a weapon or something, and it doesn't really make sense. And we see other sort of like examples with like security footage. It just doesn't make sense in a kind of a found footage conceit. So it's a little bit of a slapdash, low budget kind of zombie movie. I've seen one, it's not terrible. I think it is watchable to a degree, but it's very, very shallow. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. There's definitely worse examples of movies like this, but this is a below average film, but it's not terrible. 4 out of 10. If you've seen it, what did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time. Bye for now.